want to tell you the simplest way of how to stay productive and avoid burnout in your online business. I hear so many business owners saying, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to focus on. I can't do everything at once. I've got a list that is a million things long and it never finishes and it never ends. That is literally the worst place to be as a business owner. So I want to tell you exactly how, as a new business owner, you can avoid this whole trap that people fall into when it comes to building their businesses. So if you're new to the channel, hello, my name is Jackie Clark. I am a business owner. I've been running my business for 7 years. I've been helping women start their online businesses through my online business school. And I'm so excited to share this information with you today. So when we think about being overwhelmed and we think about how we can actually stay productive and moving forward in our online business, there is one tool, there is one trick, there is one simple answer. And it's so simple that people literally just dismiss it. They just ignore it. They just don't do it. And it blows my mind because this simple thing is the only thing that you need. And literally all it is that you have to, listen to me, you have to focus on one thing at a time. Okay? We are not made to multitask. We are not able to multitask. Women multitask from a place of like disempowerment. We multitask from a place of trying to be more than we are, trying to do more than we can. And this idea that like we're only valuable if we're doing all of these things, it's utter nonsense. So what you've got to think about is when you're trying to start your business, there are a million things that you could do. Yeah, absolutely. There are so many things. However, you've got to be able to prioritize so that you are not spreading yourself too thin. Because when you spread yourself thin, you do lots of things really badly. And then you have a mediocre business that isn't scalable, that you're not able to grow, that you're not getting consistent results in. You're literally just like stabbing in the dark and hoping for the best. And it just doesn't work in the long run. In the long run, you burn yourself out. In the long run, literally your business does not survive. This is why so many online businesses don't get past the first year. Why so many businesses in general, in all industries, don't get past the first 2 years. Because people can only push for so long with this broken strategy, which isn't a strategy of just doing everything at once. So if you are a sole business owner, if you are in your business by yourself and you're just starting out and you're trying to figure out who you want to work with and what you want to sell and how you're going to sell it and all of these good things, I need you to understand that you have to do one thing at a time. Now, I like to map this out as like projects with my client. So each thing that you're going to do in your business becomes a project, and then you map out a full project to make sure that you take that thing from start to completion. And completion means that you have a way to systemize, map out, do it again, get the same result over and over again. Okay. And this means that every single individual piece of your business gets built out in a way that you don't have to come back to it and re-go again and re-figure it out and restart again. You get to come back to it and just pick it up and go, I know how to do this. So let me give you an example. Recently, we started the podcast. So the podcast is the Diary of Discovery. It talks about healing journeys. It is outside of the core of my business. It's not a money-making activity. It's not something that I get leads from. It literally is just like the most heartfelt and like passion project that I've ever done in my life. Like it is a body of work that I absolutely love. And something that I knew to be true when I started that podcast is I cannot have that podcast take me all of my time because I still have a business to run. I still have other things that I need to do. I still want to just live my life. So what I did is I set up the podcast as a project. I said, I'm going to start this podcast and I'm going to give myself 2 weeks, 2 months to figure out how I go about it, what technology I'm going to use, what the process is of getting a guest in, getting them prepared, getting the best possible interview, doing the post editing and releasing and advertising. What is the process? And then once I had the process, I was like, okay, cool. Now I'm going to get myself ahead. So in that first 2 months, before I even launched the podcast, before the podcast was even live in the world, I had 12 weeks of episodes recorded. I had 6 weeks of episodes literally up on the platform ready to go live. And I wasn't waiting around and thinking, oh yeah, I'll figure it out when I get there, or I'll do this thing when I get there, or I'll stumble into it every week and hope for the best. No. I was like, what is the system? What is the thing that's going to make this the easiest, like the most easiest way to make this work? And I've done this with every single element in my business. First, it was building my online program, figuring out what I was going to sell, who I was going to sell it to, and actually creating the thing that was going to be saleable. Then the second project was figuring out how I was going to actually sell it, building my first funnel, going out and doing live webinars, getting it in front of people and actually talking and doing sales conversations. After that, it was social media. Okay, how do I now start to get momentum around the amount of people that I'm reaching? Then after that, it was building the YouTube channel. Then after that, it was building the podcast. Like, we've literally gone step by step. In the middle of all that, it was building the email list. There's loads of projects that have happened. And what I want you to think about is, if you break down every single piece of your business into a project, how much easier does it become to focus and actually get results? Because you're no longer going wide. Yeah, you're staying in. You're like literally like driving through, making sure, because when you have a focus for your projects, it is so much easier to say, this is the contained to-do list. These are the 10 steps I need to take to get to this clear outcome and this clear goal. And then we don't get caught up in this overwhelm of this ever-growing to-do list. We can say, okay, I'm going to do these 3 activities, then these 4 activities, then these 3 activities, and then actually my list is going to be done, and I'm going to have gotten to a clear outcome. And that is so powerful for your hormones in your body, for your dopamine, for your your balancing of actually showing yourself that you're able to take action, you're able to get results, you're able to do big things. Because for so many people, they just discount all of the work that they do in their business because they don't actually have like outcomes that they're getting thanks to the work. I hear so many business owners say, like, I'm busy all the time, but I get nothing done. That's because you don't have a clear focus project. You don't have a clear goal of what you're actually aiming and trying to get done. So pull it back in, and like, the way that you do content creation should be a project. We spoke about that last week. The way that you build your email list, the way that you build your offers, the way, any new program you're building, if you want to build a membership, if you want to do a podcast, if you want to build your email list, if you want to learn a new social media platform, every single one of these elements, build your website, like everything should be a project. And it's either a project that you do yourself, or it's a project that you have somebody do with you. Okay. So I want to talk to you about the 4 steps to actually break down this project implementation and actually think about how you're going to do this. Okay, so the first thing that I like to do when I am mapping out a project is I'm going to sit down, I'm going to map out, okay, what is the project and what skills do I actually need in order to get this project done? So this is understanding what I need for success. So I'm going to sit down and I'm going to say, for instance, with a podcast, I need to know like what software I'm going to use. I need to know how to record a podcast because it's different from normal video where like you see people. I need to understand how to edit. I need to understand how to do my intros and extras, get my music. I need to understand how to transcribe. I need to understand how to put that all together, how to promote a podcast. So there's all of these different things, okay? And then I can map out the skills and say, I have most of these skills. I know how to do most of these things, but these are my gaps. And then I go out and I say to my network, to, other providers, to people who've got podcasts, these are my gaps. So I went to my business coach and she has her own podcast and I said, this is a gap. I don't know what software to use to put my podcast out in the world. What do you use? She told me, she showed me the system. I had a really good look at it. Then I went to somebody else that I know who's got a really successful podcast and I said, oh my gosh, would you mind showing me the system that you use? What is it? She showed me, she told me. And then I could make a really informed decision rather than just like reading people's sales pages about the software that they offer. I could actually say, I've seen 2 of these softwares. I can see what the differences are. I can see what I like and what I don't like. And then I could make a decision and I could move forward. And I plugged that gap because now I can make a really good decision. And this is how I move through this first section, is I literally look at the skills and then I say, what do I need? What gaps do I have? And who can fill those gaps? The second thing is developing my own unique process. So if I had to come back to this skill, this area, this thing in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, what would be the process to make this the easiest possible thing for me to do? So, for instance, I've mapped out the process of the podcast from what happens when somebody approaches us and says they want to be a guest, all the way through to that episode going live and getting promoted. And I've got a step by step. This is every single step that needs to be done. Okay. And then in that process, if I've said an email needs to be sent, I have the email written out with all of the questions and everything that needs to be there. If I say a Zoom link needs to be sent, I've got the Zoom thing set up so that somebody can, sign up and get a Zoom link. Literally every single step of the way, I've got everything mapped out and I've got that process so clear that it is seamless for me. If somebody signs up to the podcast now, I can literally say that I am going to, somebody drops in and I go, perfect, first step is X, next is Y, then is Z. Then we do the recording. Then once the recording is done, they get email A and then B and then C. It goes out into the world. This is what they need to know once it gets there. Like, the process is so clear. And that's what I want you guys to develop when you're creating your own project, is that you actually have a process so that you can go back to this. So I've got a process for how I send my emails to my list. I've got a process for how I post on my social media across all 3 of my Instagram platforms. I've got a process for how we get retreats set up, and once somebody has come into the retreat, how we go through that process. I've got processes for my website and how I update new courses onto the website and update prices and all of that sort of stuff. I literally have a process for everything. This is how you make your business foundation really solid. Then the next part of the puzzle is, how do we systemize the process to make it as repeatable as possible? So with something like the podcast, I literally went back to the beginning and I said, okay, the first step is somebody is going to want to apply to be a guest. Now, I don't want to have to chat to every single person and figure out if they're going to be a good guest. So I put together a type form. It's got 5 questions in it. They fill in the questions. They go, this is about me. This is what I like, what I want to share. This is my core message. And I can then read that and decide whether they're the right fit for the podcast. So that's the first thing. Once I decide that they're the right fit, then there is a standard booking link that I send them and I say, wonderful, you can be a guest. Here is the booking link. Get yourself booked in. Once they book in, they get an automatic email that says, these are the structure of the questions that we talk about on the podcast. And this is everything you need to know for the day of recording. This is your unique link. And this is when we're going to be recording based on the slot that they've chosen. Then we get to the recording day. We come in, I have a set thing of 5 things that I tell people when we're on the recording, and then we record. Once we finish recording, the process is then systemized again. The recording goes down into my Zoom. Once I've got it from there, I download it and I put it into my Google Drives. Then I put it into the software where I do all of the edits, and I've got the exact process. This is the intro, the outro. This is how I break this down. In Zoom, I've set it up so that it automatically pulls out highlights. It automatically pulls out important things that guests have said and like quotes. I've got it so that it transcribes the audio automatically for me. So I can literally go in, and the whole process of editing, from me editing, like grabbing the raw footage, all the way through to having the podcast up on the platform with everything that needs to be there, show notes, transcripts, everything, plus the 6 social media shorts that I pull, all branded and all scheduled into my metrical, plus an email schedule to say that this podcast is coming out on this date. All of that can be done within about 40 minutes. It's so quick because I've systemized the process, and every point that I have, I've made it really easy. Now, the beautiful of this is that I can now get a VA and say to them, here's the process. Follow this process and do this thing. And they could get those podcasts out into the world for me without me even having to be part of the process. And then the fourth and final step is to actually action the process. So a lot of people don't follow through on this whole process. So they don't get to the point where they actually implement the plan and achieve the end goal. They stop just before they have the success. And this can be for multiple reasons. This can be a mindset block. This can be like a belief of like, you're not the person who can do this. It could be a technical block. Like there's so many things, but you have to be able to implement your project all the way to completion, all the way to implementation. And if you've broken it down into these 4 steps, this should be really simple for you to do at this point. And the beauty of this is that you start to streamline your processes. So as I said, like if you've streamlined, you can save yourself time and effort in the long run, but you can also outsource really easier. You can get a team member to come and work for you and say, these are the 6 processes for the core things we do in our business. This is what you need to learn. You can literally do that, like make this process so easy for yourself. And that's what we're aiming for. That's what we want. So what I want you to think about as you go through this is, what is your project right now that you should be focusing on? What is the one thing that above everything else you should be giving your attention to right now? And how do you start mapping out that process? How do you start getting that project in place? And something that I've always done, like I've got a package which is like a one-to-one project coaching, and clients will come in for like 3 months or 6 months and we'll literally like do a project, and this can be absolutely anything. But I want you to really think about, your project doesn't have to be in the next 30 days. Like make it 90 days, make it 3 months, do it properly, and then you won't have to do it again. Like this is the thing that I try and encourage my clients like so often. This is not about sprinting. Business is not a sprint. Business is a marathon. I want you to be able to pay yourself in decades from now, not just, today or tomorrow. I want you to be able to like literally have something that is stable, a foundation that keeps paying you for years and years and years. I'm coming up to a decade of my business being able to pay me. How incredible is that? And that's what I want for you as well. Now, if you're not already, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. It really helps. And I always bring out content that is going to be helpful for you in growing your business and getting to that next level. We've got another video coming out this month, and then we'll be diving back into our meditations, which I absolutely love, and you guys do as well. So make sure that you like the video, comment on any thoughts that you've got, comment on what your next project is going to be, what your focus is. Put it down, put it into the world, say, this is what I'm going to do. Get it out into the world. That is like the first step to making these things become a reality. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being part of this. Remember those key 4 steps. Map out the skills that you need and then fill the gaps. Create your own process, make it really unique and make it like step by step for you. Systemize as much of the process as you possibly can, and then action the process and do the things to get the results. Okay, I love you so much. I will chat to you guys soon, and we'll be back next week with some more content.